Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Sonya.
Welcome to the Coach's Cup. I'm Sonya Green with SonyaGreenCoaching.com.
And I'm Judith Fender. I'm one of the amazing coaches with the No BS weight loss program.
All right, this morning we're going to talk about the psychology of boredom,
Boredom.
and we'll try not to bore you.
Right. So yeah, we were having a discussion. We were going to be discussing transitional growth today, and somehow Judith ended up down a rabbit hole of
How did
Mel
we
Robbins.
transition from transitional growth to boredom? I don't know. But yeah, it was kind of a rabbit hole, but it's a super interesting rabbit hole.
So yeah, I went down the Mel Robbins rabbit hole, and it was what did we determine it was called? Borrowing functioning, right?
Yeah.
And so it led to, people who seek others for comfort versus learning how to self-soothe
Yeah.
themselves. And which led somewhere in the topic, it discussed boredom, and it just resonated with me because so many times in coaching my clients, common themes that the brain seems to get stumped upon, that people don't want to feel,
Yes.
or don't know how to feel, are relaxation and boredom.
Yeah.
Like, don't know what to do with it. Don't know what to do with it.
And we're, hopefully on the downside of a pandemic,
Right.
where we have all had to deal with boredom as part of being quarantined, part of being away from people.
Well, and just a change in life too, like just kind of stuck at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Home loses its novelty when you've lived in it. Right. That's a big part of boredom. So we, as we did a little Google researching, like the lack of novel. Okay. So Googled a couple different definitions of boredom. So one was neurological, devoid of neurological stimulation, right? Boredom can be defined in terms of attention. According to Eastwood, it occurs when we are not able to engage our attention with internal or external information, thoughts, feelings, and environmental stimuli, respectively. Okay, that wasn't the fun definition. The fun definition that Sonya liked was the one where, so Tolstoy defined it as a desire for desires, and Adam Phillips described it as the feeling that sometimes drops over children like a scratchy blanket. He called it the state of suspended animation in which things started and nothing begins.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I don't know that I liked that one anymore because both of them resonate with me. I do think it's a neurological need for stimulation, but I think when I think about being bored, the whole concept of that scratchy blanket idea, it's a desire for desires. I know that in my weight loss journey, most of my eating would come down to boredom. And so I really do think that most of us are just uncomfortable. Boredom is an emotion. And it's just like those other negative emotions that we've never made friends with. We don't know how to feel it. We don't know what to do with it. And culturally, it is unacceptable.
Unacceptable to be
be
without
bored.
productivity, to be bored.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. We were talking when we were pre-gaming, we were talking about when we were kids, and you said the same thing happened to you. If I ever uttered the words, "I'm bored," around one of my parents, oh, well, hang on, I got something for you to do.
Oh yeah.
I got a little job for you.
Right. Sure. Yeah. living
And
out on, we didn't have cows to milk like you did, but we did have a cow pasture full of rocks.
yeah, no, we didn't milk our cows, but yeah, I mean, I would be sent out with a hoe to chop thistles or, you
Yeah.
know, or dust the furniture, which for me was worse.
Oh my
There was
gosh.
nothing worse than having to dust the furniture.
Right. One time, I kid you not, um, my childhood driveway paved, right? And it's at least a quarter mile long. And my mom had me sweep the driveway. As my first experience with blisters, my hands were shot. And I was so mad. I think I was like 12.
Yeah, I mean, but boredom is unacceptable in our culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we or maybe fortunately, I don't know, but we need we need to get comfortable with boredom
Right.
because it can also be we were talking about it as a trigger,
A catalyst for
a
change.
catalyst. Yes, that's the word I really like. Because it's kind of like anxiety. When you're feeling it, that's also a scratchy blanket kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's telling our bodies, it's telling our bodies something. But and this goes back to what you're always saying about disassociation. We're not good at listening to what our bodies are telling us.
Right, which this comes back to Mel Robbins' little thing about borrowing functioning. And the issue with that was she said that her psychotherapist or whatever said that, it's the inability to ground yourself. And so what I took that to mean is what we know in life coaching is learning to drop into your body and feel the feeling,
Yes.
right? Just drop in and experience the feeling. And it's not going to last near as long when you feel the feeling. Like
No, it
it's just a
doesn't.
vibration, right?
Right. And that's why I like that scratchy blanket idea because it's just a vibration. It is a physical feeling.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's an
And
experience. It's a physical experience in your body.
yes, and we have become tone deaf to those physical experiences when really they are our bodies and our brains work together.
Mm-hmm,
They're
mm-hmm.
supposed to. But so many of us have just learned to just shut that door
Mm-hmm.
to our emotions, to our vibrations. And I'm not trying to get in the woo
Mm.
because
I
I'm a
like woo.
pretty
I like woo.
I consider myself a pretty logical person, but this makes a lot of logical sense to me that we have turned off, we've shut the door between the body and the brain, and we've got to open that door and feel that scratchy blanket. It
Which
doesn't hurt us.
which comes back to like just learning to feel a feeling, bottom line, right? Like we could almost end right there because I'm sure we've talked about that before.
Like,
But I do have some Google research here, just kind of wanted to touch on about, and I know you have some things too, about, so in a study of binge eaters, right? That's something that super common in our culture. And as it relates to boredom, it's one of the most frequent triggers binge eating is, along with the feelings of depression and anxiety.
mhm.
And where you and I, when we were pre-gaming, talking about the youth and how it's also, it accounts for about a 25% variation in student achievement.
Mhm. And
Uh,
how people who are more bored are more likely to reach out, or kids who are more bored are more likely to reach out to um, foreign substances like drugs and alcohol to get that stimulation.
Right. It actually said in the US, teenagers who said they were often bored were 50% more likely than their less frequently bored peers to take up smoking, drinking, illegal drugs.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I think as adults, we call it sometimes we call it buffering,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but the things that we do to try not to feel boredom are, overeating, binging, over drinking,
Mm-hmm.
over shopping, porn. There's so many different destructive behaviors that we do not to feel a feeling.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
And what is also interesting when we come back to this feeling and what we know as coaches is we need this contrast.
yes.
We need this feeling for the contrast of life because we can't experience happiness and joy and love and peace and all those higher vibrations that feel so good.
Yeah.
This contrast of life is important.
Yeah. It is. And it also, we can't understand, we can't accept it as a catalyst if we're not feeling it.
Good
I
point.
was I was sitting in the car the other day. I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember what I was doing. But I was sitting in the car and I was thinking, it's just kind of a blah day. I feel I'm kind of blah and I couldn't really put a feeling to it but then it hit me. You know what? I'm feeling this way because I'm feeling.
Mm.
Because I am accepting my feelings.
Mhm.
And that's not the first time that happened, but it still surprises me sometimes.
Right.
Because when we're not buffering, when we're accepting boredom or, whatever the feeling is and actually feeling it, we're not going after that artificial stimulation.
Right. Right.
So there is going to be some leveling out. It didn't hurt me. I
Mhm.
moved past it pretty quickly once I thought about what was actually going on.
Mhm.
But we we've developed a need, a habit, not a need, a habit of artificial stimulation because
Right.
we think we need to feel happy all the time.
Right. And again, if we're doing engaging in these activities and not feeling the feeling, then we're left with, being overweight as a result of the binging or an alcohol problem or a substance abuse problem of some sort
Mhm.
where we're not this false pleasure,
Yeah.
right? Seeking the dopamine hit because the brain is always working for something. And the real power is learning, like we've said, to embrace the feeling, open yourself up to it, and just
Yeah.
allow the feeling to be there. It's part of being a human. We're
Yeah.
guaranteed this.
And it's trying to tell us something.
Mhm.
It is this is what I really like, and I got this from Gay Hendricks,
Mm.
the big leap guy.
Mhm.
He says that, and different people talk about it different ways. I know Brene Brown talks about checking under the hood for what
Mhm.
that feeling is. But Gay Hendricks, he said, we should spend time every day in a place where we're devoid of outside stimulation, where we can just drop into our bodies and say,
Mm.
what is bringing, yeah, is a big one with him because it's that hum that brings both sides of the brain together. But, what is causing this boredom? And we're not trying to solve for it
Mhm.
necessarily. We're being curious. We're
Mhm.
dropping into curiosity. What is causing this boredom? What is this boredom trying to tell me?
Mhm.
Because it's there for a reason. It's our body's way of telling us something.
Mhm.
What is
So
it?
this is so like this just flows right into flow. Here's the word.
Yeah.
Psychology Today article I came across, and it said the lack of flow is one of the reasons people fall into boredom. So this says that
Yeah.
being in the zone, flow occurs when the person's skills match the level of the challenge presented by the environment and when a task includes clear goals and immediate feedback. Tasks that are too easy are boring.
Yeah.
In contrast, tasks that people perceive as too difficult lead to anxiety. So I thought that was interesting.
Mm,
Are you
mm,
being challenged enough? Are you being challenged enough? Are you just kind of like status quo? Need to bump things up?
yeah. And think about this. I was coaching a lady last week on her job and how she was feeling um undervalued at work. And if you start the feeling, of course, we went through the whole think, feel, do, cycle of how she ends up not showing up in a valuable way when
Mm-hmm.
she feels undervalued. And we talked about how to make that change. But connecting it to what you just said, if I'm bored, if I am, then maybe I'm not rising to the occasion of
Right.
what my potential is.
Right. Again, so when we're checking under the hood, what's this feeling telling me? If we're feeling bored, am I challenging myself? Am I
Yeah.
rising to the occasion that would serve me?
Yeah. It's just boredom.
Mhm,
So um boredom, we've the thing to do is to figure out how to make it work for us.
mhm,
And I think the way to do that is to listen to it,
mhm,
to sit in it, sit in that scratchy blanket and try to figure out, what is it trying to tell me?
mhm,
What am I not meeting? What level of in my life am I not meeting that I need to rise to?
mhm. Or we could lean into, the benefit of boredom.
Mhm.
The benefit of boredom could be a good nap. Like, maybe
Right.
use it to work in your favor. Like lean.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my cord is choking me here. Um, taking a good nap or just that ability to just zone out and just
Yeah.
be present with it.
Our body needs that sometimes.
Mhm,
And, like we said before, culturally, we are not good at being bored, at relaxation time.
mm,
But I'll tell you a funny story. I hadn't really thought about this. When I was working on my PhD,
mhm,
I had a professor, and the first time I took her class, I made a B plus. And I was crushed. I went into a 2-week depression because I made a B plus. This woman, I wanted to be her when I grew up. And I was an adult as a PhD student, but I wanted to be her. And so I took another class from her, and oh, I wanted a research topic that was just going to be so impressive.
mm,
I wanted to get that A, to earn that A, and I had been trying and trying to come up with a project, and just nothing was resonating. Nothing was working the way I wanted it to. And finally, one day I was exhausted, and I just laid down and took a nap. And when I woke up, I had the best idea. I'm not kidding. And it's
Right.
something that I went on and wrote a chapter about, got it published. It was
The creativity, the kind of leaned into it instead of
I
resisting.
did. I did. I leaned in and, just said, "Hey, we got to give everything a rest." And
Mhm,
when I did that, my brain had time, that flow, for that flow to happen, to put all of the pieces that have been floating around together.
mhm,
And
mhm,
that's another thing. When you said that, I meant to say that we as a society, because of our technology,
mhm,
we are constantly interrupting the flow.
mhm, mhm.
And I think that has a lot to do with our attention issues, with our anxiety, but it also has a lot to do with boredom because we chop, I'm having a thought, but oh, I get an email or I get a text and we never get to finish it.
Mhm. In this Psychology Today article, it said, in many ways, boredom is a modern luxury. Boredom was literally non existent until the 18th century. It came into being as the Enlightenment was giving way into the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, we talked about that when we were pre-gaming too. I'd forgotten about that. That's right, because up
Mhm.
until then, we were busy surviving.
Right. That's exactly what it says. Our ancestors were just busy, just like trying to build shelter and find food.
Yeah,
Here we are.
yeah.
This
I mean,
boredom is a luxury.
we go to Kroger and buy a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter if we're
Right.
hungry. I mean,
Right.
it's not hard. But yeah, we have caught up with that. So our brains are, still trying to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah. For sure.
That kind of goes back to that. We hadn't brought this up, but we were looking at boredom in a lot of different places. And there was a study of NASA astronauts,
Right. Yep.
and when they were in space, they started using a lot more Tabasco sauce.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was because they weren't getting they had several different conclusions that they came to, but one of them was that they weren't getting that outside stimulation.
Right.
And
Right.
so the spicy food was at least an outside stimulation.
And then like the study, I just listened to it once, but the study, did you understand it to say like the big reason they were studying the food was because astronauts, when they're gone
Mhm.
for extended periods of time, excuse me, they become like bored with food and they don't want to eat and they become malnourished
Yeah.
because they're so bored with the eating. There's lack of novelty. And
Yes.
so it
Well,
broke.
and let's talk about the food that they eat. It's all
Right.
powdered. It's not pleasant. So I'm
Right.
sure it's not a pleasant task in itself. And there's probably some level of Tabasco sauce that covers the taste.
Right. But it was, so it went on to say, like, and again, like your understanding of it was, so she said, like, if they made spaghetti, if they had this powdered spaghetti, they became really bored with it. But when they broke the ingredients apart
Yes.
and
You
they
could
could
put them
like just,
together in all
they had to
different
put,
ways.
right. Like, so the ability, kind of like the Legos of food, they could build their own food.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's that need, to just to have something drawing our out.
Stimulation, right? This
Yeah.
to novelty.
Yeah. Yeah. So they come up with new ways to use pasta and tomato paste powder. I thought that was interesting. That tomato paste powder makes me happy I did not become an astronaut.
Me too. I can't imagine. Oh,
All right. So I think, is there anything else you want to cover before we give everybody their big takeaway for the week?
just it's not, boredom is not a bad thing. It is part of being a human. Gives
Mhm.
us the contrast of life. It's meant to be felt. And what is it telling you?
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think that's the takeaway for me. If this week for our listeners, if you are bored, you're going to reach for something, for some kind of stimulation before you even realize it. So one thing will actually be catching boredom
Mhm. Mhm. And
and
this
naming
is,
it.
so here's like a perfect example, like when someone is eating, my literally, like how I do it, like if I find food in my hand, if I find myself in the kitchen, I'm literally like, Judith, you're not hungry, what are you trying to solve for? What are
Yeah.
you feeling right now? Like, just kind of like I say it out loud, like it's my
Mhm.
check-in, and boredom will come up.
Yeah. I was talking when we had the guest coaches on, I was talking with one of them, I don't remember which one it was right now, about how I talk out loud to myself a
Mhm.
lot.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um and I'll do that too, something about saying it out loud. Hey, what am I doing here? Why am I in the pantry?
Yeah.
What am I trying to solve for? I love
What-
that.
Yeah. If I'm not hungry, because you know when you're hungry.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I hear it.
Hmm.
Exactly. I love that so much. Just
Hmm.
when we podcast so it's dropped by now, right? The
Yeah.
the one about him, um, that it just resonated with me, that talking out loud, being a verbal processor, has a double whammy effect
Yeah.
if it connects parts of the brain. Like I just love that so much because I can write all day long, but there is nothing like a 25-minute coaching session to, to, to share my thoughts with someone else.
The ultimate stimulation.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we love podcasts, and I can sit here and talk to you all day.
I know, I know. And we will be back next week. I think we need to go ahead and close this down today,
All right.
but
Yeah, yeah.
this is the most fun I've ever had talking about boredom.
Right.
I think I can clearly say that. It's a no-brainer. So anyway, we hope you all have enjoyed it and learned something and learned to lean in and figure out, what is this boredom trying to tell me?
Mhm.
So until next week, I'm Sonya Green from SonyaGreenCoaching.com.
And I'm Judith Fender, one of the coaches at the No BS Weight Loss Program. And if you wanted to do a little research, just go to fit.click/free resources and find your way into the No BS Weight Loss Program.
Yeah, into that great free course.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we'll also ask you, if you don't mind, if you enjoy this podcast as much as we do, go to iTunes and give us a little 5-star rating. We need to see those ratings pump up a little bit. We know that our listeners are increasing, but we want to see some of those positive ratings.
Right. So if you're feeling a little bored, you need some novelty in your day, just go on. You've never left a comment
Right.
before.
Go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating.
Get some little neural stimulation going on for yourself and leave us.
That's right.
All right, let's just drop it all.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.